Eric, and we'll give you the details of that. We will be having at least 2 more face-to-face meetings coming up soon to be announced. And again, the chapter is growing. If you're not a member of NDIA, an individual member, it's $50 a year. And I guarantee you, if you're working in the federal sector, you will get information as a member from corporate that will prove to be of great value to you. When we formed the chapter, retired Colonel Rachel McCaffrey latched on to us. She's a retired Air Force 06, intel officer, and targeteer, and spent a lot of time doing her job on the MQ-9 Reaper. She is one tough, smart woman, and basically grabbed us and drug us down the right trail. We have tremendous support from National. We're kind of a test chapter for them in many ways. I wanted to mention that. And the president of NDIA was kind enough to provide a video for us that Eric will show later in the day. But I want to thank Michael Graney and his staff. And there's 3 women that helped us make this happen. And that's Lily Hicks. I think she's hiding upstairs with Kelsey Klug and Vicki Boyd, who you met handling the table when you walked in the door. I wanted to thank them for sure. Also, you can credit this chapter, David, Cody, myself, and said, look, after 9/11, the Guard and Reserve went to war and still at war. And they just really couldn't say no to that. So that's one gold star on the West Virginia chapter for sure. Now at National, if you take a look at that slide, NDIA has been an organization. There was previous organizations that were merged to form NDIA, but they've been an organization since 1919. Very powerful. They're not a lobbyist group. They drive policy and they advise the federal government on defense issues. Membership is worldwide, close to 60,000 members worldwide, and what does it say? 1,700 corporate member corporations worldwide. Every major defense contractor you've ever heard of is an NDIA corporate member, for sure. And affiliate organizations, Women in Defense is a big push right now, and rightfully so. And two other organizations that I'm not familiar with, but anyway, it's a very, very powerful organization. I encourage you, if you're not a member, please consider doing that. You'll get policy emails, you'll get status checks, for example, the CMMC, bit of a nightmare that we're going through. Must be done. Very complicated, very expensive, but NDIA is all in on helping their corporate members and their membership get to that finish line. So, once again, if you want to talk face-to-face with any of us on the executive committee, myself, please feel free. One person we're missing here is the procurement officer for Northrop Grumman, who is the founding vice president, probably one of the busiest guys in the state. Didn't make it here today, but Northrop Grumman's in play with us in a big way, in a big positive way, and I wanted to mention that. So I guess the named MC here, thank you, is Mr. Eric Clark. And Kelsey, thanks for putting this in 4-point font for me. Old soldier here. J. Eric Clark is the Government and Defense Liaison for West Virginia Department of Economic Development. Works arm in arm with Michael Graney. Mr. Clark brings 30 years of private defense contracting experience and is best known for executing defense-related products and contracts over 70 countries, including travels to 34 U.S. allied governments. Eric's assignment with the department is one of the exceptional resources in assisting diversification of West Virginia's economy. Now, been in business over 30 years. It's been tough. I'm only 47 years old, and look at me. It's a rough trail. But West Virginia, up until Michael Graney and Ed Gouch, previous governors, the current governor, and Michael Graney has put defense on the state map for the first time, really. If you get on the Development Office website now, you'll see names of companies and locations. Prior to that, I wouldn't say we're ignored, because that's not the case with my company. We've had a lot of help from the state. Steve Spence will be speaking later, is on that list as well. But defense was not really a focus for the state, even though we have one of the premier National Guard organizations in the entire country. It just was not pushed like it's being pushed now. So you're in the right place at the right time. So I guess I did a reasonably proper job, Mr. J. Eric Clark, and a good guy. Also on the executive committee and very active with this job.
Thanks, Craig. You don't know what he might say, so you're kind of holding your breath. It's great.
Wait a minute.
No.
This is all for Dave Satterfield.
Yeah.
David's like, when is he going to go off script? I know what he was thinking.
It's great to be here. It's great to see a lot of faces that I know and friends and people in the industry, those who serve our country. We're thankful for you and what you do every day. At the end of the day, I'm going to say this a couple times, but really the main effort here at the end of the day is the warfighter comes home safe, and we get contribute to that. But how did we get here? And I'm going to go off script too. The NDIA is this chapter. The state didn't have a chapter before 3.5 years ago, and West Virginia did not. You had to participate either in Pennsylvania or Ohio. And today we have over 300 members, and I think it might have been 6 or 7 years ago. David Satterfield and Ann Barth, they put a study together. And Dave, I'd just like you to stand up. Where are you, Dave? Stand up in the back. And Cody Stewart, his neck is in the front. Now, this is about the effort here. Michael Graney always says this. He always talks about communication, collaboration, and cooperation. And it's important that the people in this room know who's who. And Dave and Cody are very instrumental in this chapter. If you want to know somebody else in this chapter, they're instrumental people for you to talk to if you can't talk to Craig and I. And really the effort here today is about further communication, further collaboration, and further cooperation. If this group learns to do that, then that's what we're here for. That will help grow the economy in the state, and it's diversification that we're looking for. So I too is off script, but I really want to recognize Dave. I really appreciate what you've done. With that, Michael Graney could not be here today, the director, but I also want to thank Secretary Mitch Carmichael for his leadership to oversee this effort. He's worked with Michael hand in hand, and we're excited that we can have this here today. We're going to have 2 videos in just a moment. Neither Shelley Moore Capito or Senator Joe Manchin could be here today, but they have both provided us a video. Following that, we're going to have a video from the corporate office, from the NDIA office, from the president. And then I'll turn it back over to Craig. But the defense industry in West Virginia is strong, and it's growing. And we're going to have more events. We have other corporate sponsors and corporate leaders here today. We're hoping to do an event up in the Northern Panhandle, hopefully soon, up on the racetrack at Summit, and see some of the training they're doing. And then we want to come to other facilities within the state. We're looking to have maybe some quarterly phone calls where people can call in, and just more cooperation and collaboration. So with that, I'm going to let you go to Shelley Moore Capito and Senator Manchin.
I forgot one thing. I do have a little bit of humility left in me. Both senators and Major General Crane named me in the videos. I did not ask for that. It's not about me. It's a little embarrassing.
It's all good. It's all good.
And this won't be the first time I interrupt you.
I'm expecting it. I just hope he doesn't share what we talked about at breakfast. So if you can roll those, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Craig, and thank you to everyone at the NDIA for what you do to keep America safe and to grow the defense industry in our state, extremely important. In this time of rising threats, we need the brightest minds in manufacturing and innovation here in West Virginia and across the country to ensure that our service members are best equipped to defend our homeland. Through my role on the Senate Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, which is responsible for funding the Department of Defense, I'm committed to strengthening and expanding DoD's partnerships with our defense contractors and innovators in West Virginia. West Virginia continues to prove itself as an attractive destination for the defense industry, and I believe there is still much more room to expand. Defense contracts boost our state's economy and makes our country stronger. I spoke to the first meeting of this group a few years ago. We have made great progress in West Virginia, but I'm excited about the progress yet to come. I've enjoyed forging relationships with everyone here and look forward to bolstering those relationships so we can build the strongest defense ecosystem ever seen in West Virginia. I have also seen what is possible when the West Virginia defense workforce joins together, and I encourage all of you to continue forging those partnerships to bring more opportunities to our state. Whether it's manufacturing high-tech solid rocket boosters or sourcing raw materials, West Virginia is the place to make it happen. And while I'm unable to be there in person today, I can't wait to continue working with all of our partners in the Mountain State. The bottom line is this: America is safer, and West Virginians succeed because of the partnerships we've created together. If there's anything my staff can do to support your work or help you navigate the DoD landscape, please do not hesitate to reach out, and I hope you all have a great meeting. Thanks for the introduction, Craig, and
Hello, I'm United States Senator Joe Manchin. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of the West Virginia National Defense Industrial Association Spring Meeting. This event would not have been possible without the continued leadership of Craig Hartzell and Dave Satterfield, and I'm grateful for their efforts. It is our responsibility as elected officials to invest in a resilient future. Now more than ever, the defense of our homeland and our interests abroad should remain our highest priority. And we all know our industrial strength is vital to maintaining our status as a superpower of the world. In addition to being America's energy powerhouse, West Virginia has protected our national security for generations. We mine the coal, forge the steel that helped us become the greatest military might the world has ever known. And that remains true to this day. West Virginia continues to be a key player in ensuring our nation remains the land of the free and the home of the brave. As the leading organization in bringing government and industry together, the National Defense Industrial Association has been and will undoubtedly continue to be a driving force in our national security and defense system. Through strong communication and collaboration, I have no doubt that this meeting will result in many opportunities for additional development of West Virginia's defense industrial base. And I know the defense economy will continue to flourish across Appalachia. I am always honored to work on behalf of the brave men and women who keep this country safe, prosperous, and free. Please remember that all of you here today are also playing a critical role in protecting the safety of our nation and establishing a brighter future for us all. Thank you again for inviting me today, and may God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless the great state of West Virginia and the United States of America. Hello, I'm United States Senator
I'm Major General Bill Crane. I'm the Adjutant General for the state of West Virginia. I couldn't be there today, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to share a message with you. And First of all, I want to thank Craig Hartsville for the invite to come down and speak. And Craig and I have done a lot of great things together. He's really helped me to get in touch with a lot of our defense industrial base here in West Virginia. I want to continue those partnerships. We've worked with a few businesses throughout the state where we are able to test some equipment and have them work with us in trying to ensure that we are training towards items that we may see our adversaries use against us. I want to make sure I've had the best trained force. And by having collaboration with our defense industrial partners, making sure that we're seeing the latest technology. And so I want to make sure I continue that. And it also gives you an opportunity to test out some of your equipment where necessary. So if you haven't talked with me and you have an interest in sharing what you have to bring, I would be absolutely, I'd love to have that opportunity to talk. And also, as you work with us and you see there are areas where you want to test equipment and give us that opportunity to work with you and partner with you on that, we would love to do that as well. So again, I just can't be there today, but I want you to know that as the Adjutant General for the state of West Virginia, I want to be an advocate for you because you provide the systems we need to be successful on the battlefield. And you also provide, the opportunities for some of my Guard members to be a part of your organization and work for you. And so again, thank you for the partnership and thank you for what you do. And let's continue to work together. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Craig, and members of NDIA's West Virginia chapter for providing me with some time to talk about our association and why events like this chapter event are so important. So the key question, why does it matter that you are here? The answer lies in understanding where we are as a nation and what challenges we face compared to the past. Both the 2018 and 2022 National Defense Strategies recognize the world has changed. The post-Cold War era is over. This assessment reflects not just Russia's aggression in Europe, but also China's expanding economic and military power and its aggressive actions in the South China Sea. Both strategies conclude China has become our most consequential strategic competitor. In a time when our nation's leaders seem hard-pressed to agree on anything, it is noteworthy that two different administrations led by two different parties, reached very similar conclusions about the shift in our national security environment. But the nature of this great power competition is different than what we experienced in the past. The US economy was significantly larger than both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. We could be slow, show up late, and still prevail through volume and industrial capacity. Unlike in these previous contests, however, the U.S. is no longer positioned to quickly pivot to produce the materiel needed by our armed forces in a future military conflict, especially a modern conflict with an industrial power like the PRC. Along with the offshoring of most of America's traditional manufacturing, which threatens critical defense supply chains, America's shipyards, capable of building and maintaining naval vessels, declined from 71 to 20 since 1940. A decrease of 2/3. Lack of capacity hampers our ability to produce or fix warships at the scale needed to fight a sustained conflict with a near-peer rival, particularly in a maritime theater. Likewise, companies no longer have the commercial manufacturing infrastructure or the workforce to quickly convert to defense production, like we did during World War II or the Cold War. In 1985, the U.S. had 3 million workers in the defense industry. By 2021, the U.S. had 1.1 million workers in that sector. We have furthermore experienced a shrinking financial commitment. From 1985 to 2021, national defense spending dropped from 5.8% to 3.2% of GDP. And the most recently released defense budget, it would come in at only 3% of GDP. This competition will also be different than the Cold War. The Soviet Union had 40 million more people than the US, but China is larger by approximately 1 billion people. The Soviet Union and the US both produced about 20% of the world's steel. Today, the US produces less than 5%, and China produces 50%. The Soviet Union reached approximately 13% of world GDP and then declined. China is much larger with 18% of world GDP and is still growing. The bottom line is China challenged the United States in ways previous competitors could not. During the 40-year Cold War, it became U.S. policy to drive the Soviet Union into bankruptcy, and the strategy worked. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and with it, our peer competitor. In response to its demise, the U.S. dramatically reduced our force structure and enjoyed the peace dividend. Following 9/11 and throughout the early 2010s, we dedicated our time, attention, and resources to transnational terrorism. During this time, our defense spending stayed relatively stable, but highly focused on counterterrorism and counterinsurgency. Meanwhile, the PRC has been steadily increasing their investment in defense, focusing on maritime, air, space, and cyber operations. The last two national defense strategies capture the bipartisan agreement that the PRC is now the pacing challenge of the U.S. national security establishment. Yet we cannot win this fight by outspending our competitors like we did with the Soviet Union, nor by surging our defense industrial capacity to overwhelm them, as we did against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Protecting America's security and interests during the next few decades will require significant collaboration between government and industry. NDIA, as an educational nonprofit, plays a critical role by convening events dedicated to enhancing our understanding of the challenges. And we will work with industry and to ensure we provide our warfighters with decisive competitive advantage across the spectrum of conflict in all domains. NDIA also encourages cooperation with America's friends, partners, and allies, become a key component of our strength and security since the Second World War, has been our commitment to and focus on working together to deter threats whenever possible and defeat them when necessary. This brings me back to the question I opened with. This is why it matters that you are here to bring your innovations to bear on our national security challenges. Our security benefits if we can connect our warfighters with the full range of our nation's innovations from our established defense firms, non-traditional companies, and from small businesses and universities. This is why the chapter organized this event. This is why NDIA exists, to facilitate that communication to strengthen our national security. NDIA is committed to doing our part, promoting this essential discussion between industry and government to support the warfighter. For those of you whose membership in NDIA lends credibility and weight to our educational efforts, thank you. For those of you, whether you're government or industry, who are not yet members of NDIA, I hope this event convinces you you should be. Thank you to Craig and the West Virginia chapter leadership for inviting me to make these opening remarks, and I hope all of you enjoy a productive meeting.
Is this on? We good? We're going to have, from the Department of Economic Development, we're going to have Steve Spence come up and speak with us today. We'll share a little bit about Steve. He's been around for a long time. He's someone I've known for a long time, and I can just tell you, when I think of him, I think of a hard-working man that has integrity through and through. He represents the state in a beautiful way. It's always been a pleasure to know him, and today it's nice to be able to introduce him. I've never done so. Steve joined the Economic Development Agency in 1979 and has served as the Industrial Development Representative, the Executive Director, and since '86 in his current position of the Director of the International Division. Under his organization and under his leadership with West Virginia Trade Mission throughout Asia, Africa, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. And in 1990, Steve was assigned to Nagoya. Did I say that correctly? All right, Nagoya, Japan, where he established the state's first overseas office and assisted in opening similar office in both Europe and in Taiwan. Steve earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from West Virginia University and serves as a member of the U.S. Investment Advisory Council, the West Virginia Export Council, the Chemical Alliance Zone, Bluefield State College International Studies Advisory Committee, and he's active in other international trade and business groups. At this time, Steve's going to come forward and talk to you about the Department of Economic Development and the tools and services we have that are available to each member of the NDIA. Steve, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. And we're ready to go. Does this work? Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As Eric mentioned, Mike Graney, the executive director of our office, couldn't be here, and he asked me to share information on what our Department of Economic Development is doing, and particularly from the international side, because much of it is overlaps some of the things, and we can see some real opportunities to work together with the NDIA. I haven't been directly involved in this, but I'm aware of Eric's work in this, and I think some of the relationships we have in different countries and different sectors will be of some help and great synergies, if I can use that word. If I can. Okay. I don't know if she did it right. Just briefly about our office. I'm from the International Division, so we have two functions: to attract foreign investment to West Virginia and also to assist our existing companies in promoting their products overseas, their goods and services in export markets. I won't go through all the others, but as you may know, we have a domestic development side, business and industrial developments led by Todd Hooker, community development, which is basically infrastructure, water, wastewater treatment, that sort of thing, a broadband council, the Office of Energy, the film office, and small business development. I wanted to mention the business and retention. I know there are many companies here that are in the state, and you may know the different reps, but sometimes people think of our office as, we're chasing the next Toyota or the next Nucor project, and we certainly are chasing all those we can, but we know that it's a priority to keep what we have and help our existing companies expand. And the staff we have, the resources we put into existing industry retention and expansion is very important. So these reps, if you're in the state and you don't know who your rep is, let me know and we'll be glad to introduce you. But most of their role, and they're mostly based around the state, but they call on manufacturers, tech companies, other major employers to help them kind of be an advocate for them in state government, and also to be sure they're aware of the incentives they have for investment. So just as we offer incentives to new companies, we have lending programs, tax credits, workforce training funds, and a variety of support for our existing industry. And under our division, we have two people that have the state. As you can see, they have pretty broad regions, but Caitlin Lazarga and Jesus Velasco